Yeah, it's all experimental for me, but it took me a while to get to that point. Again, especially from coming up from a background in dance, there was a lot of perfectionism that is weaved into that practice, into that lifestyle, into that profession. So it took me a while. I would say this past year has really been the springboard for my ability to look at my life and my relationships and my practices truly as a practice and truly as play.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Well, welcome to episode 453. We're Emma and Finn, and this week we've got our third interview featuring the team over at the Kink Collective. Today we've got an amazing conversation with Natalie as she shares her thoughtful and intentional journey of exploring polyamory, kink, power exchange, and self-discovery.
Yeah, we've done a lot of interviews, like 450.
Yes.
Well, 453 to
Yes.
be exact. But we've talked to very few people who've done as much personal reflection and have as much insight into themselves as Natalie does. And she's only 25. It's pretty incredible, and we love how she embraces life as one big experiment and playground. We're super excited to dive in, but first we wanted to just touch on a little bit of Natalie's work with the Kink Collective. She is the organizational manager and the social media strategy lead at the Kink Collective.
Yes, the Kink Collective is a community and educational organization dedicated to helping successful people build successful relationships built on the philosophy of people before kink and the idea that who we are comes before what we do. You can learn more about the Kink Collective, see photos of Natalie, and find links to all of the incredible work the Kink Collective does over in the podcast show notes on our website. Just click on the podcast tab.
You can also go back and listen to the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. We had both Joshua and Kat.
Natalie also sticks around to answer some bonus questions for our premium subscribers. We chat about pubic hair preferences, how long she has to know somebody before fooling around, and of course, anal fisting.
Of course.
Anal fisting's made a few appearances the last few weeks.
Yes, it has.
And might come up next week as well. So you're definitely going to want to stick around and listen to the bonus episode today. If you're not familiar, our premium subscribers, man, that's such a hard word.
It is.
Our premium subscribers get ad-free podcast episodes plus a 10 to 15 minute bonus episode every single week where our guests answer some fun extra questions and give us an opportunity to get to know them even deeper than we do during our regular interviews. You can sign up on the homepage of our website over at normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Just scroll down. You'll find out all the information to sign up there for just $4 a month.
And with that, we're going to jump right into the episode for all of our premium subscribers. And for everyone else, we have a few announcements.
The first announcement is just to remind you all that Emma and I lead a community full of about 300 incredible people from around the world who socialize and support one another every single day. We host our community on a platform called Mighty Networks. We have monthly community support Zoom calls, monthly virtual workshops, and in-person events as well, all for less than $10 a month. And we've got a very unique opportunity for you today. If you happen to be listening to this on Wednesday, August 19th, the day it came out, we actually have a workshop tonight. It is Transforming the Shame Triangle, hosted by author and therapist Jessica Fern. You've probably heard of her as the author of Polywise and Polysecure. She's going to be joining us tonight to talk about shame and the shame triangle. So if you are looking for more community, looking for more support, or maybe you just want to check out an awesome workshop tonight, you can join us again for less than $10 a month. You can find out more information about our community over on our website. Just click on the community tab.
And a reminder, if you're like, oh man, I missed that workshop, but I'd really like to listen, you can. Don't worry. We record the workshops and they're posted in the community. So all you need to do is join the community and you'll be able to listen to that workshop and join the next workshop that's coming up.
And you can listen to the other 19 workshops we've had. So you get so much for $10 a month, you'd be a fool not to join.
And if you're looking for other ways to connect, we have some other events coming up. The first is our in-person speed friending event. That's going to be in Oakland, California, August 27th, 2026, coming up next week. We are super excited about this. It's a great way to meet new friends in person in such a low-pressure environment. We put you in small groups, ask you a question, you talk about that group, then we scramble the groups, you talk about another question in a new group, and rinse and repeat for a little while. It's super fun, and we love hosting this event.
Yeah, you can learn more and grab your tickets over on our website. Again, check out the show notes. There'll be a direct link there. And we also do this as a virtual event as well. The next virtual speed friending is coming up on Friday, October 2nd. Pretty much exactly the same format that Emma just described that we do in person, but we do it on Zoom and we use breakout rooms and we bring people together from all over the world. So it's a fantastic way to meet incredible people. So again, you can join us in person August 27th in Oakland, California, or Friday, October 2nd, virtually for our speed friending events. And you do not have to be a member of our community. These are open to anyone and everyone. You just have to be open-minded, respectful, and hopefully awesome.
Yes! Next up, we want to remind all of you about our favorite way to get tested for STIs. It is stdcheck.com. This is a service Finn and I have been using for years. We've been telling you about it for years as well. It is fast, easy, discreet, and when you use the links on the resources tab of our website, you get $10 off, making a 10-panel test only $129. Using those links not only saves you $10, but it also supports the podcast. So thank you in advance for using those links, and thank you to anyone who has used them in the past as well.
Yes, thank you from my side as well. And the last thing we want to just remind you all is that we would absolutely love to hear from you if you happen to have a question, a comment, feedback, or best of all, you want to come on the podcast yourself to share your story. We would absolutely love to hear from you. You can reach out to us over under the Contact Us tab of our website. One more time, that's normalizingnonmonogamy.com, or you can find direct links in your podcast show notes. And just one final thing on this, we would truly, truly love to hear from you. We're not just saying this. We would love to have you come on the podcast. You know, the last few weeks we've talked to the team at the Kink Collective, and we talked to lots of different coaches and therapists and content creators, podcasters, and all of that. But many of our episodes are just everyday people who just want to share their story and help others feel less alone. And we would absolutely love to have you come on and share your story. So reach out to us, send us an email, and we promise we'll make it happen.
And with that, it's time. Let's go and talk with Natalie.
Welcome to the podcast, Natalie. We're excited to chat today. We've talked to Joshua, we've talked to Kat, and now we get to talk to you. And next week, / in an hour and a half, we get to talk to all three of you. So we're super excited to have you here today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
We'd love for you to just start by introducing yourself.
Oh, wonderful. I feel like this is the hardest question sometimes.
Totally. It is.
It is.
We start with the hard ones, and then it gets easier from here on out.
And the good news is there's no right way to do this. Whatever comes up that you want to say.
Wonderful. Okay, well, here it is. Well, my name is Natalie. I am a 25-year-old woman, originally from Buffalo, New York, but currently living in New York City. And I've been living in New York City for about 4 years now. What do I do? I'm polyamorous. I live with both of my partners, Joshua and Kat. And what else? I'm a stripper. I'm a pro-dom. I work for the Kink Collective, which is an organization that my partners, Joshua and Kat, co-founded and run. And I help design the social media and basically manage the business. So I work in the frames of sex, sexuality, intimacy, and everything in between.
Yeah, love it. Super excited to dig in and get to know you a little bit better. So yeah, maybe the best place to start sounds like would be to go back in time and figure out maybe like what relationships looked like for you. How did you did you like grow up with non-monogamy as a framework, or was this fairly new for you?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm 25. So I don't have much experience with being in romantic relationships.
Okay.
So what I believe to be true is that I gained all of my experience from the relationship that I had with my parents and the relationship that I witnessed them having with one another. So I grew up with them being in a married monogamous relationship until I was 16. About when I was 16, actually before this, I maybe I should disclaim it by saying my parents are emotionally immature. All to say they did not teach me, and I say that with so much love and so much care, and I know that they gave me better than what they received themselves.
Sure.
But even within that, I know that I didn't receive what I needed as a little girl in terms of how to process my emotions, process my relationships to other people. I was diagnosed with ADHD later on in my life, later on being like 14, 15. And growing up, I dealt with a lot of overstimulation. And that overstimulation was often met with them thinking that I was throwing a temper tantrum.
Mm.
When in reality, I was extremely overstimulated and I didn't have any source of the ground. I didn't have
Yeah.
any ability or any information on how to develop a relationship with myself
Yeah.
and have that dialogue with myself. So my relationships growing up, I had my parents' relationship, which I witnessed crumble in many retrospects, in many ways, mainly due to a lack of communication and a lack of communication with themselves, their inner dialogue, which I know to be true now after doing the work that I do with Joshua and Kat, is if you don't have that self-awareness to be able to know what you want, how are you going to be able to ask for what you want? So I witnessed them really, really struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, again, all coming to light for me within the past 3 or 4 years. At the time, I had no idea what was going on.
Totally. Yeah. And I would just say too, right? I mean, I love that you're kind of starting here because I think this is common for a lot of us, right? As our parents, and even if your parent, if the people listening are parents, right? Like we just have the tools that we have, and we had what was sort of shown to us, and then along the way we figure it out. But a lot of it is like, well, this is what I saw my parents do, so that it's almost like either that worked well enough, so let's do it, or that was awful, so we need to do the opposite. There's like, I feel like those are sort of the two camps that people land in. And again, I know there's areas of gray here, but it's, I think it's often where our parents are doing their best and then we do our best.
Yeah. So I give them as much credit as I can for how they were able to step away from what they were given and move into new territory, especially now as an adult. Both of my parents know I'm poly. They've met both of my partners. My father takes me and my partners on vacation, and we just came back. Me and Kat just came back from Greece. So they've opened up, especially the religious framework that I had growing up was Catholicism. So I grew up going not necessarily extremely Catholic, but we would go mostly every Sunday and then Sunday school. And then when I got older, we stopped going in my teenage years. But that was another piece of their system of belief that they brought from their parents as well. So there wasn't a lot of questioning of limiting beliefs passed down upon them. So it led them, whenever I asked questions, to kind of fall into this. Well, why? Wait a second. Why do I believe what I believe? And again, this is what I remember now as a teenager, of them almost like short circuiting when I would ask them questions, because they never questioned themselves. So then they have someone looking at them, their daughter, being like, wait a second, why do I actually believe that? So nowadays, my relationship with my parents is very cohesive and secure, and I know for sure, and they know for sure, and we've had this conversation that we much prefer to be transparent within respected boundaries. There's things I don't share, right? My sex life, and as much as I can, the other day my father was visiting right before we went to Greece, and I called my partner, who's my master in front of him by accident, and he laughed and we laughed and we shared a moment of laughter, and like, well, she's an adult and she's going to do what she wants to do and what makes her happy and safe, and that's the most important thing. So yes. So all to say, I did not have a example of anything other than monogamy growing up. In fact, I was actually told anything other than monogamy is wrong based off of the church that I grew up in. But I never connected monogamy to be wrong for myself. Like I never had to do that flip.
Yeah.
Although I've had a lot of difficulty navigating my relationship between intimacy and sex and romance as I stepped foot into polyamory. And that's really what I've been exploring and navigating for the past few years, 3 years since I've been in a relationship with Joshua and Kat and the other people who have also been involved with us within that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have relationships that fell outside, sort of before you got into polyamory, or did you sort of like
Yeah.
kick off your relational,
What did that look like,
yeah,
as a teen?
your relational career?
I like that. I like that. So I had a few flings, I would say, in high school, which I count now after looking at them, because
Yeah.
also what I believe to be true is that I'm going to be given the same experiences until I decide to look at those experiences with a different perspective.
Mm.
So if I have a relationship, so an experience for me that came up in this relationship in high school was with two women. One of them was my best friend who I had fallen in love with, unrequited love, and then another was this girl who she was in love with, and we ended up having this like very non-ethical sexual romantic relationship with one another. And what was happening in this relationship for me was actually a mirroring of the relationship that I had with my father and my brother growing up. And it was a re-traumatization, like a if you need to be able to look at this. I believe that the universe told me you need to be able to look at this relationship in the light that it is versus what was given to you based off
Mm.
of your dad and your brother. And what happened was my father growing up in a 7 sibling household, 5 of those siblings being women and then 2 of them being men, his father only gave him all the attention, him and his other
Mm.
brother. So when he had a girl and a boy, he gave my brother all the attention.
Mm.
All the attention. And that's what he was given. He had no other
Yep.
way of viewing it, right? So again, that's like the repeating
Mm-hmm.
of relationship patterns. So that left me as a little girl feeling not chosen, feeling not loved, feeling like I didn't have the amount of attention that I needed from my father, and then put me into the care of my mother, who had a a, a lot of traumatic experiences growing up with an alcoholic mother. And so her, again, emotional immaturity was more so on the anxious side, and my father's more so on the avoidance side. So I grew up with a lot of anxious attachment due to her relationship to attachment styles. But this relationship that my brother and my father had, and then me being on the outside watching and looking in, came up in this relationship in high school that I had with these two women. And when I was able to separate from them and say, you know what, I'm done with this, I didn't mean that I actually healed my trauma with my father. It meant that I was going to be put in it again, like I did with Joshua and Kat, in the next scenario. I just said, well, you know what, if it's not going to happen here, it's going to happen now, and that's
Yeah.
what it did. So
In high school.
And
yeah, well, so yeah, in high school, I was in relation to these two women, and I didn't have the information, the memories, or the realization that this was like a a, a retelling of my
Yeah,
childhood with my father
of
and my brother.
course. Yeah.
yeah.
Right? No, but when I stepped into my relationship with Joshua and Kat after about like a year of being in the relationship and really becoming activated when I was watching them be involved with other people and be intimate with other people, I was finally able to put the pieces together about my childhood. And so once I had those pieces, then I was able to process their relationships with other people in a much more holistic way.
Yeah.
And now my relationship to watching them be in a relationship with the other people is much more grounded, much more secure, much more I understand, like I never deemed myself to be monogamous, and I never deemed myself to be poly, but I knew that polyamorous relationships, the belief around being in relationship with multiple people at once, made much more sense and felt much safer in my body than monogamy did, like it in and does. So that belief is what held me in the relationship that I am currently in, and I wouldn't choose a different way if I had the choice,
Mhm,
even with
mhm.
all the difficulty that had
Yeah.
arose. Like I'm so
Yeah.
grateful and thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long have you been together with Joshua and Kat?
I have been together with them. I met them about, I think, going on 3.5, 4 years now.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
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 So there wasn't a ton of time between like the high school experience and that type of stuff until coming into this relationship.
Yeah, there was. So that would have been 18. So yeah, there was about maybe like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you find your way, I guess, into polyamory, non-monogamy, this sort of going from high school relationships to falling into a relationship with an established couple?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I fell into it without searching for it.
Literally fell.
And
As usually happens.
yeah, again, I didn't do any research about polyamory, let alone did I know much about it. Like I don't even think I knew the difference between polygamy and polyamory at the time. Like I was just it was all kind of like meshed
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
one another, and I didn't know that there was also subcategories to what polyamory could look like and the formations of it all. So I've been kinky my entire life, and I entered into the kink community almost as soon as I could when I had turned 18. And again, I didn't know that there was a community of people practicing this stuff. I really did think it was just behind closed doors, but I had moved to college to go away to college about an hour and a half outside of where I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I went to school for dance and got my degree in dance. And the first university that I went to out of the three, I sat down at a lunch table and this woman sat across from me who was a year older than me and told me all about the kink community in Rochester, New York. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I had no idea. I'm kinky. I would love to go and enter these and see what these events are like. So I've been going to kink events since I was 18. And within kink, there's not necessarily like, I feel like poly is more not acceptable, but it's I don't know, more widely known maybe than just like in the vanilla community, or maybe open relationships. Like it seems like people are more open to playing with other people without like the thought of what that could mean for them. And I know that maybe doesn't necessarily fall into poly, but more into open relationships. But I started seeing and stepping foot into what that could look like for myself. But it wasn't until I met Joshua and Kat at one of the events that they were hosting after living in New York City for 8 months after graduating from my third university in London in the UK that I really was like, okay, well, I guess this is time for me to see what this feels like and what it looks like for me in my life.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like the initial discovery that you had was learning about the kink community and sort of stepping into that space was sort of the gateway to just sort of like a broader spectrum of like different ways of relating, whether they were polyamory, swinging, non-monogamy, or even just, I know there's a ton of monogamous people in the kink community too, where they don't particularly see what they do as non-monogamous in any way. And so it sounds like that was really your gateway, the first door you stepped through.
Yeah, that was the first time I was able to see people engaging with multiple people at once.
Yeah, I'm curious what it was like to sit down at the lunch table. Like, I just have this vision, like first day of school, like got your lunchbox. You're like, whoa, poly or kink and BDSM, and there's this club, and like I'm just curious what that was like for you stepping into that space and learning that like, oh, there's like a formality around this, like there's a structure, there's a community around this thing that maybe you were already interested in.
Yeah, I don't remember much from it. I knew some people who were in the program that I was heading into at that university. So I was sitting with people who I was already friends with. And this person who sat down, who was the kinky person who invited me into the community at the time, was a friend of my friends. So I've always been open, transparent, never really hid any of my fetishes, likes, desires. And so it was pretty simple and easy for me just to have a conversation with her, have my friends be there, listen to me. I've always been the friend who people have come to talk about their sex lives with. That's always been my role because I don't judge. I'm like in the deep end of the pool. So it's like, you want to talk to me about it? Cool. Like we'll have a fun conversation. We'll get a cocktail, So it was not much. It was just me being like, oh, that's awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then you starting to actually experience that community feel then.
Yeah. That was I really, really appreciated the feeling of community. Again, the communities that I grew up in were the Catholic church community, that the small one of my home. And, school and my dance friends. So I didn't have much other than what I was given. This was the first time I was able to experience a different genre of people.
Yeah.
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 Totally.
Cool.
Well, and so I'm curious then, it sounds like you went to school for a while, did some studying in the UK, come back to a workshop that Joshua and Natalie are at, and then how does it evolve for you to start stepping into, I guess it sounds like a whole new way of relating, right?
Well,
At this
and
point.
now you're in New York City too, which is a different place than other parts of New York, right?
Yeah, it's a different place for sure. I mean, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, which is still in New York State, but it's the second biggest city in New York State, and it's 1 million people in comparison to 13 million in New York. So it has no gain whatsoever. But yeah, so I moved from living in London, so one big city to another big city. I was at the time struggling with anorexia and dealing with my eating disorder and what that meant for me. And so that left me feeling lacking a lot of confidence. When I moved to New York, it was right after I graduated school as a dancer, studying, working really hard on my physicality, on my auditioning skills, and it was an extremely difficult 8 months before I met Joshua and Kat, uh, where I was dealing with a lot of weight gain and my body image issues. So my ability to relate to people was foggy because all I was thinking about was how they were perceiving my physical body.
Yeah.
And so one of the earliest memories I have of being in relation to Joshua and Kat, and maybe this was like the third or fourth time I had met up with them after I had my original meeting, was we did a photo shoot. We had Joshua set up a scene and we had a play scene and Kat took photos. And I remember looking at the photos and just feeling so overwhelmed with shame and like disappointment. And I had to really I was navigating a lot at that point. Not only was I navigating what it meant for me to be in relation to multiple people at once and watching the people who I was just starting to have feelings for and with be in relationship to other people and have feelings for other people. I was struggling with the communication and the dialogue with myself and my confidence and how others were perceiving me. But eventually after doing a lot of work, after talking, because I originally connected with Joshua first at the event that they were hosting. I went to the event with someone who I was talking with maybe on some random social media website. And I was talking to him for about 3 months and he came like 4 hours late to the event. And he came to the event and at that point in the event, it was like a show and tell. So Joshua and Kat had all of their toys out. It was very beginner friendly and you could pick up the toys and you can ask them to show you how to use them on another person or how to use them yourself. And so my date had finally arrived. And again, like 4 hours into the event, I was like, whatever. And I was looking at one of the toys. I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And he looks at me, he looks at the toy, he picks it up, he hands it over to Joshua and he goes, she would like to try this. Can you do this and hit her with it? And I was like, what kind of consent is this? I was like, I wasn't complaining. Joshua was sexy. I was happy to I was happy to engage with him. But that was he basically just handed his date off to some other guy, which I didn't know if he actually processed that or how he whatever. But Joshua and I had a negotiation for it should have been like 2 or 3 minutes of me feeling out this toy, like a show and tell, and it ended up lasting for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it really started in the negotiation. And Joshua will tell it one way, I will the other. But I had nothing to hide in terms of my experience, in terms of who I was, in terms of what I was dealing with. I remember telling him about my recovery from my eating disorder and my relationship to my body in that negotiation as a trigger point, because I didn't want, in our negotiations, we always talk about our triggers. And I think that what he was experiencing was in comparison to other negotiations for a show and tell experience, and an extreme amount of vulnerability shared. And I felt that was where our energy connected, and how we built the foundation for our connection was the fact that I had nothing to hide, and everything to share.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel just like hearing you talk about that, Natalie, it strikes me that the amount of like communication and honesty and transparency that are required to be in the kink world, in non-monogamy, honestly, in a monogamous relationship, right? It feels like you sort of just bring that naturally. And you're like, here's who I am, here's what I like, here's what I don't like, and I'm gonna put it out there. And I don't know, it's pretty incredible to hear that it's not like you necessarily learned that. It's just sort of like it feels like it's almost part of who you are and how you relate to people.
Yeah, I would much rather say what I need and not actually need it and retract my statement than not say anything at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I lived for some time. I don't want to say a good amount of time, because I really don't think I've spent a good amount of time engaging in anything. uh, in the best ways, all to say. Yeah, I don't live in my head much. I've learned that I prefer to give myself time to process, and to have those moments of dialogue with myself, and instead of constantly thinking or constantly ruminating or working through processes, I like to give myself like an allocated time to work through something, and then keep myself out of that whole um, like tornado of a thought cycle. So
Mm-hmm.
so I yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot to learn from you. That is, I spend most of my time in that thought tornado. So yeah, admirable.
Thank you. I work. It still comes up for me, and I have to work my way out of it. Right. So it's a
Yeah.
constant. Like there's layers to it. Like if I fall too deep, then it's really it's much harder for me to get out if I keep falling past those levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing that. And so I'm also like curious. So you start to develop feelings with, sounds like Joshua first, and then also with ultimately with Kat. But I'm curious if that, like, it comes to me that maybe that could also mirror that relationship from high school, and also the one with your dad and brother, where you're coming into an established couple where they may, even like as hard as we try to be sort of, I don't know if equal is the right word, but equitable, right? And being aware of our hierarchy, but like I could see that could still probably come up where it feels like, oh, I'm the neglected one in this partnership, or it has that potential. Again, I don't know anything about what it looks like for you, but I just
Yeah.
like knowing how these dynamics can be. I'm curious if that came up for you at all.
It absolutely did. Came up for me. It came up for me many a time, and it still does in its moments.
Hmm.
But now I have an understanding of its origin, and not that eases. It does ease the intensity of the reaction, or the amount that I want to react, because I'm
Hmm.
at the point where I have the need to react, but I know that that is not going to help me nor the people who I am engaging with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But at first, it did not come up with Kat. I think that Kat mirrored more of my mother. So in the scenario where I was feeling neglected growing up, it was due to my brother and my father. So at the time when I walked into the relationship that I had with Joshua first, and then Kat next, Kat being Joshua's primary partner, I developed the relationship with Joshua first. We immediately had this connection, this alignment, and chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
So we were negotiating almost from the beginning a negotiated power exchange dynamic, him being my master and me being his slave. Also, words to say leader, follower, teacher, student for people who, I think it's actually, that falls more into line, and the role play of it, the master slave, is more for the eroticism than anything. And so when it came to developing my relationship with Kat, I again, I didn't have the same reaction that I did when I was having in high school, which is like an extreme amount of jealousy when I would witness the two people who I was engaging with sexually be sexual with one another, and me not being involved. But I had my own relationship to my mother that I was navigating. But when I would witness Joshua be in relationship to one of his other partners at the time, and they would be sexual, because him and Kat, I never really witnessed them being extremely sexual, but I would witness him being sexual with other people, and that was when it would hit me, when I would get like, wow, I would get extremely jealous. I would feel neglected, betrayed, all of these really, really heavy emotions mixed together, which would extremely complex for me to untangle. And it took about, I would say, 2 years, maybe a year and a half, while being in a relationship with them, until I was able to like bring that memory back from my father and my brother and be able to put it in front of my face and be able to see that what I was experiencing was my projection of that relationship versus what the relationship actually was. And what the hierarchy actually was in my reality. I did not take his relationships and their relationships at face value until I was able to see my own experiences that I had at my own face value.
And how that was affecting you in the relationship now.
What do you mean?
Like how your past experiences kind of, like, it took you to time, which makes sense. These things take time to figure out as we grow and learn and reflect, and to think about and to realize how your childhood experiences were kind of showing up in this dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I believe to be true is that I can't learn how to be in a relationship without being in a relationship.
Yeah.
And again, I can learn how to be in a relationship by being in a relationship with my parents. That's a relationship. I can learn how to be in a relationship with my friends who don't engage with sexually, but there is that romantic element that changes it. So if I feel like I can do all the therapy that I want about the relationships that I've had, but until I'm actually in a romantic relationship with another person, I'm not going to be able to integrate any of the information or wisdom that I've unveiled for myself in therapeutic settings.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love that one. I'm curious then what it's kind of, I don't know, from your experience, what it's been like the last few years going through or sort of going on this ride of like experiencing some of that jealousy, learning maybe a little bit, like tying it back to that. But also, are you dating other people and exploring other relationships along the way? Like, what has it looked like these last few years of like jumping into the polyamory pool, so to speak?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm in a power exchange dynamic with Joshua. So he's my master and I'm his slave. And I'm also a pro dom, so I work in professional domination. So the relationships that I occupy are vast. So especially the roles and the reversal of those roles. So if I'm coming from being in a session as a mistress for 3 hours and then I return back and I'm now being asked to be in service to Joshua, my master, that's an extreme switch for me, and it can be incredibly difficult, including the roles that we occupy, Joshua and I, within the realm of him being 20 years older than me, and we have like that daddy little girl dynamic in addition. So that's really where most of the hurt comes up for me, is when I fall into that, or I choose to be in that dynamic in the little girl headspace. And then I'm being asked to, with a specific tone of voice, to be in service. That pushes me into more so the submissive headspace, but like the reversal of that is usually the most difficult to navigate. So what's true for me is I'm not in any other romantic relationships other than the ones that I have with Joshua and Kat. We have other play partners who we engage with, who we are supportive of in their lives and whatnot. But it really doesn't fall, like, I don't have any intention to build another relationship other than what the universe and what my life decides to give me. Like, I'm really content and happy with Joshua and Kat, and I have professional relationships that from the outside can look like romantic relationships, but in reality they are strictly professional and friendly. I also don't engage with people who professionally and also everywhere who disrespect me and who they don't match up with who I want to become and who I'm growing into as a person.
Yeah.
So, but respect is big for me. Trust is big for me. Loyalty is big for me. Transparency is big for me. But yeah, I'm open to meeting people, but I'm not like searching for
Yeah.
a new person to fulfill a role in my life. I don't have any role that needs to be filled, at least from my like conscious perspective.
Yeah. I'm curious too, in the power exchange dynamic that you have with Joshua. For you, what does that fulfill?
Mm. Well, it puts me face to face with my relationship with authority.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first entered the relationship with Joshua, I had this feeling of need for a power exchange, a relationship in which I've negotiated that I have less authority and he has the authority over me, right? And now I know, yes, I know it's true that I was sexually attracted to that being a relationship that I wanted to engage in
Mm-hmm.
from the erotic view. But also I knew that I didn't know, but I know now that I needed to unravel what it meant for me to not have control, or to not control is the right word for it, because that also falls into my relationship with my body and my eating disorder, and wanting to control outcomes and wanting to know what's to come, and that's just not true. So for me, it gives me the opportunity to practice surrendering to what's not mine to choose.
Yeah.
And I'm putting myself in a safe container to do that. And yesterday I was talking about it as well, like the difference between hurt versus harm. And I truthfully believe that a lot of people confuse the two constantly, and that's why relationships crumble. And what I mean by that is I think that people are projecting their bounds of hurt onto the people who they're developing their relationships with currently in time, and that can feel a lot like they're being harmed. But in reality, it's just conflict and it's just friction. And so I navigate that all the time in the role that I play as Joshua Submissive, is me wanting to push up against what I'm being told to do, but having to question why I want to push up against it, why I need to push up against it, because it's a reaction. It's a I want to know better. I feel like I know better, but I don't. And in reality, he's left me astray, or what, like maybe like 10%, 5% of the time, and the penalty for that is close to nothing, other than the fact that what he said something wrong or did something that was maybe not the best choice out of the three or four. And so for me, it's a practice of surrendering, and it's also research and development for my information and for my wisdom as a mistress in my professional world.
Yeah.
I believe that it's really difficult to give what you haven't received.
Yeah.
So I utilize that as wisdom for what I'm able to provide people who are coming to me, to be able to step into surrender, to be able to step into a higher power, which I believe to be true. If you're able to surrender and choose to surrender, and then you are able to step into a much more powerful life position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes sense that you're wanting to experience both sides. Like that's so that you're fully experiencing both sides so that you can bring more to both and to yourself, right? I think in the whole you're helping other people, but you're also helping yourself in those experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. It was to practice, I'll say the difference between topping and domination and topping in kink is basically just giving. You're just giving. It's clinical. I can do this, and I'm not dominating you. I'm just hitting you. I'm just giving you a sensation. And dominating is much more nuanced in the sense that I have to learn how to not force you, but you need to comply. You need to. It has a much more nuanced view. But Joshua was the person who told me that I should be practicing my topping skills as a means for safety, so that if I ever were to engage with someone else, I would know if I was going to be harmed. From the bottom's perspective, you want to make sure that your top is not going to hurt you or harm you. So that was my task, and I kind of ran with it and developed my relationship to, or started developing my relationship to what it looked like for me to be a dominant, and then to work as a dominant came foot after that. But that was ultimately his order. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really, really enjoyed this conversation because I think you touched on a few things that like really show how like sort of intricate and complicated the relationship is
Yeah.
to your relationship is to these relationships and to these dynamics. And right, like you're just like kind of the way I heard it was like you've intentionally chosen, right? And you've said that you've used choice a lot in your language, which has really stuck out to me. That like I've chosen to put myself in a container where I'm then surrendering and then sort of trying to understand my own relationship, your own relationship to giving up that control. But yet you've also done it in a way where you weren't forced in, like you chose to do that versus, well, I truly am just surrendering all control and whatever happens to me. I don't hear that at all. It's much more like intentionally stepping in, seeing what happens, learning what happens, feeling what happens, and then like calibrating from there is
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all experimental for me, but it took me a while to get to that point. Again, especially from coming up from a background in dance, there was a lot of perfectionism that
Oh yeah.
is weaved into that practice, into that lifestyle, into that profession. So it took me a while. I would say this past year has really been the springboard for my ability to look at my life and my relationships and my practices truly as a practice and truly as play. And I think that there's also a misconception that as a submissive in a dynamic that I have no choice or I have no advocation for myself. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. And the main rule is that if I don't want to do something, I have to do it, but then have the conversation about it afterwards, unless it goes against my morals, ethics, or belief system. If it goes against those, then I'm able to renegotiate on the spot before the task or the order or whatever is asked of me is completed. If not, then I need to sit with it, process it, and do it, and then see how it lands for me afterwards. And if I do want to renegotiate after the fact, then I can. I always have the ability to renegotiate. It's just within the parameters of timing that is when choice lands.
Right.
But there have been so many opportunities in this past year for me where I've really stepped foot into that this is truly an experiment. Everything I do is an experiment where I now can push myself, but I could see my boundaries and I can see my limits in real time when I'm engaging. And I know, again, it falls back into time. I know when I can push a little bit more than maybe I did the day before. But that doesn't mean that I have to keep going. I can always stop. I can always change routes. I can always start up a conversation. I can always advocate for my needs and my wants and my desires, and whether or not they will be held is a different story. But I can always ask.
Right.
And that's always on the table, is the ability to renegotiate or just negotiate.
Right. Well, and I guess like what I've also heard in here too is right whether and maybe what you said a few minutes ago about like the harm versus hurt and like experiencing that and really sort of teasing that out and sort of being like, okay, well, in this scene, this didn't feel great. And now I can like sit with it and think about like, was I truly harmed? Or was it like you said, like, oh, they messed up or I missed my own limit and now I understand it better and we can come back and talk about that. And like, if it happens over and over and over again, okay, well then maybe we're into harm territory. But like part of this is like, oh, we learned something from that. And I also hear too, you have this choice too to be like, well, if I sort of speak up and they kind of push back, like you also have like a safe word, right? Where you can always throw the flag and be like, okay, like the whole thing stops, the whole game stops. We really need to talk here, right? Like you should never be out of choice with any of this is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once it feels like my ability to choose lessons, then that's when I need to reconsolidate with myself and with the people who are around me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just really grateful for this because I think it's one of the we don't get into the kink side of things a ton in our show, but I just love like so much of the nuance here where it's like it's erotic, it's fun, it's sexy, but it's also like you're like untangling and learning so many of these like really deep things about yourself and your like childhood and wounding and healing and growing and who you are, and it's like all mashed into like one like I don't know fantastic experience or way of being. And so it's I don't know, it's really incredible to kind of hear you talk about it and break it down and how it shows up for you.
Thank you. Well, it's an incredible opportunity to be able to process and break it down for myself and try to simplify it and make it explainable in a way that is digestible. Because I really do believe that the only difference between the relationship that I'm in and the relationships of quote unquote, I don't want to say vanilla, but people who maybe don't identify as kinky is the acknowledgement of the fact that we are kinky. Like, all to say that, you still have to be self-aware in order to be in a relationship that isn't kink based. You still have to have transparency and sound communication skills and frameworks in order to be in a relationship. And you still have to know that you can talk about what needs to be talked about basically at any time, right? Within constraints of the other people that you're in a relationship, and being able to know, oh wait, this is not a good time because actually they're activated and the conversation won't land. Right.
Yep.
So there's and then the whole element of service is I'm in service to whoever I love, like all the time. I'm in service to my parents. I'm in service to my friends. And it's always a choice, it's always a choice for me to be able to say like, actually, I don't have the time to do this right now. The only difference is if my master or my partner says, no, you have to do it now and I have to do it. In other relationships, the person, I mean, I could always say like, no, actually fuck off. But why would I do that? That's not fun. That makes the sex not as fun because it's all about that, because that's the output. The output is the ability to connect and the ability to have impactful, intentional, and connective sexual experiences. And that's really where the whole kink, like layover is for it all. But without that, it's just, for me, it looks just like any other relationship, or at least how I believe relationships should live. And that's really what the Kink Collective does, and how we help people is we really allow them to be able to look at who they are at face value and then be able to ask for the relationships of their dreams based off of what they've been able to see and acknowledge for themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love that. And it just what strikes me a little bit in here is the way you're describing that. I step back and I say like, or I see it as, we're all in these power dynamics in our relationships, whether we acknowledge them or see them or not, right? And like you hear people talk about, right? Like, I was in this relationship for 20 years and I didn't realize that I was always doing this and I was always sort of on, performing this role or doing this thing. And I didn't want to, but I didn't know. And I felt like I couldn't say no. And so like you hear people talk about power dynamics and feeling like they're out of choice and that they've spent whatever years or decades sort of in service to somebody without even really realizing it. And yet you're sitting here being like, well, I'm acknowledging it, they're acknowledging it. And I think one of the things you just said that really hit me was like, no, I could say no anytime I want. I could say fuck off. But what that will do is it will mess up the sex piece of it. But most people don't have that sort of understanding of the dynamics they're in, right? And it's like you have this very clear picture of like whether it's doing the dishes or doing some kinky sex thing, like power is power and you're much more aware of it than a lot of people are. And I think that's really fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, that's another one of the goals and the missions of the organization is just bringing light to the fact that power lives in all relationships. As you said, you couldn't say it any better. And whether you're willing to acknowledge it or not is your choice. But from what I've seen, is it provides a much more fulfilling and trustworthy relationship with the other person. It's like, now I don't have to think about it. If you're leading and I'm following, and sometimes I'm leading and sometimes he's following, that's the whole exchange element. But then I don't have to, we have the boundaries. Now I don't have to think, oh, wait, should I be taking charge here? Or wait, should I step back? We're able to complete what needs to be completed much more efficiently with a lot less stress, a lot less annoyances, because of the fact that everything is on the table that needs to be on the table.
Yeah. I have another unrelated question, but before I get to that, I'm curious. You mentioned the Kink Collective a little bit, and I know we've talked about it in the last 2 episodes as well. But I'm curious from your perspective, what I guess what do you want to say about the Kink Collective to get people to, check it out?
What gets you excited about the Kink Collective?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest excitements for me was actually the piece we were just talking about, is the acknowledgement of power dynamics and the acknowledgement of, how do I say, basically just knowing where you are in this moment in time. I think a lot of people struggle with being able to say where they are currently in themselves, in relationship to themselves. And so it's a beautiful moment to be able to witness a person who we work with unravel that destination of now within them. And once you get to that point, it's again like a flower blooming of what do I want? What do I actually want? Like based off of like my entire life I've been told what I want. And so that's what I thought I wanted. And now you're sitting with almost this imposter syndrome moment with yourself. But after you get past that, or after I got past that and I've witnessed other people get past that, there's like endless opportunities for what you can do. And it's such a freeing and beautiful moment to witness. But ultimately, we help successful people build successful relationships. And the quote is on successful people because there has to be an element within you that's already stepped foot into building a successful life for yourself. And many of the people who we work with have fulfillment in their profession. They have fulfillment in the relationships they have with their friends. But then when it falls into the romantic territory, it becomes murky. So there already has to be that proactivity and that commitment to wanting to do the work. I have no intention of wanting to coerce you or wanting to like convince you. I don't have the energy for that. You need to involve yourself in your own life. before stepping foot. But ultimately, that's what makes me excited, is those little moments of glimmers for people where they realize that they can do whatever they want and they can design their life and their relationships however they want. Because without the relationships that we're in, are we actually living? Are we actually alive? And what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hear that in there. That's not like, hey, you have to show up like great across the board. It's more like you got to show up like this isn't going to be a cakewalk. We don't just hand you a paycheck at the end of the week. Like you've got to work to figure out these things. Like the journey you just talked about was not an easy one that you've been on the last few years of figuring this stuff out. And so it takes the intentionality to show up and do it.
Yeah, it has to be voluntary.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm curious too, one thing we haven't talked about too much is sexuality. And I'm curious for you, you said, I've always known I was kinky. Have you always been pretty confident in your sexuality as well? As what has that exploration been like?
Sexuality is such a complicated topic.
It is.
And I say that, and it's like, but I have always been attracted to women, and that was something that I dealt and had a lot of shame in regard to because of my Catholic upbringing. And the first relationships that I occupied were with women as well. I only had sex with women until I was 18. And then I started exploring my relationship to and with men, or people who identified with as a man. And yeah, I remember growing up and having sexual and romantic attractions to women and feeling the shame and feeling the guilt and having to navigate what that meant for me. And then at some point, I think I was I must have been like 13 going into high school at 14, where I just kind of let that all go. I didn't feel ashamed of it. I mean, I had to deal with my parents' wrath when they found out. And again, it fell back into that, wait, but why is it wrong? Me questioning them and then being like, because it's wrong. And then they're like, wait a second. Why is it wrong? Other than it's wrong because that's what we were told was wrong, or what the religion has told us is wrong. So my relationship to sexuality, I never placed myself into any category. Actually, that's not true. I identified as a lesbian for years, but that was just because I wanted to annoy my parents even more as a teenager, and I really was protesting. But I for sure knew that I fell more into the demisexual, pansexual. I never identify, like I really don't care like what genitalia you have or what's going on. As long as you're a good person, I'm probably gonna want to connect with you and then see where that goes from there. But I don't. Yeah, my relationship to sexuality is constantly evolving. I don't fall deep into labels, but I understand the need for them to be able to connect and build community with other people. I think without them, it would be really difficult to do that. But yeah, I'm always open to exploring where I'm currently at with my sexuality. But right now, I am happy to engage with anyone who I connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. Thank you for touching on that a little bit. It is a complicated topic, and I feel like you did a great job like explaining where you're at with it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, the overall like vibe I've just gotten from our conversation, Natalie, has been like, for you, it seems like life is just a giant adventure and an experiment to like figure out how we get to know ourselves better, get to understand other people better, and sort of just to like be in and be like, where am I? What's happening? What does this feel like? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Do I want to change it? Like, it just feels like just like every day is an experiment to like figure out what we're doing and how we can do it in a way that feels better.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always been told to take things seriously in some ways. Like, you should be focused. You should be on top of your shit, working hard, staying busy, being productive. And in truth, I think perfectionism, those are the messages that we either receive right in front of us or like subconsciously. And for me, I have, again, you're right. I've really tried to focus on taking things as not serious as I can. Not to say that I don't focus, I don't get work done, but while I'm doing it, I have to remind myself that none of this is going to make or break me or my life.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I was also curious to touch on too. You talked a little bit about how you sort of started down the pro-dom path as sort of a tool for understanding yourself in the sub role better. But I don't know, I'm curious if you could touch on that a little bit more, that like the path and sort of bringing in that switch dynamic, right? To go from the sub or the slave space to now I'm stepping into sort of the top or the dom space. And I'm just curious what that's been like for you to step into that and learn about that role.
Yes. So how I've been able to explain it is that being in submission is much more comfortable for me, but being in a position of dominance is much more natural for me.
Mm.
So comfortability versus a natural position. So basically,
Mhm.
I've always I think it's more so like the taboo element why it feels much more comfortable for me and why I feel much more drawn to wanting to engage sexually as a submissive. But the concept, and not even the concept anymore, but the truth that I have of being able to hold space for powerful men most of the time, to be able to explore their desires and do so in a confidential and safe space. And again, how I define safe space is that you're going to get triggered in the space that I hold for you, but the difference is that I'm going to support you in your activation. So there's no padding on the walls. We are going to work through what comes up. And I tell my clients that I work with and the people who I start working with that I don't want to work with them forever. In truth, I want them to be able to unveil and uncover what they truly want and what they need, and to be able to build these relationships outside of the realm in which they are paying me to do so. So I really do look at it through a holistic lens, just as I was given from Joshua, and I have incredible mentors. Joshua and Kat have also been professional dominants for quite some time. So I've been able and super lucky and grateful to through line my professional environment and experience based off of all the experiences that they've had to untap that I don't have to, because the wisdom has been passed down and I've been able to integrate it. But I work with people who are in high positions of power who don't normally have the ability to step out of that.
Mhm.
And I work with them on being able to look at power through the perspective of it's even more powerful to be able to surrender and to be able to choose to surrender. If you're not choosing to surrender, then you're falling into people-pleasing territory. That's the difference between choice and not having choice. Is submission is a choice, surrendering is a choice, uh, and people-pleasing isn't. It's a habit, and it's something that I'm constantly unraveling, and something like even if I'm ordered to do something in my submissive role, like I still have to be present enough to choose to be in service at that time. If I fall into the people pleasing territory, I know that I'm falling into it because I become resentful and I
Mhm.
become frustrated and I become agitated. And that's when I have to take a step back and remind myself that I'm choosing to be in the role that I'm occupying. And so all of that information, again, like I said, I wield it into my professional life, and I craft my professionalism based off of the wisdom that I was provided with by my partners. And again, it all falls back to me being in school and everyone wanting to talk about sex with me, because I have no shame about anything that happens or wants to have or that you want to do. Like I like hit me. I'm sure what your wildest desire is. I can navigate it with my eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is just such a powerful thing. I think this is something that people don't necessarily understand until they've experienced sharing the thing that they've been terrified to say out loud their whole life. And they say it, and somebody either is like, yeah, and what else? Like,
What else?
you know, or they're just like celebrate it, right? And to speak something that you're terrified of and have somebody shrug it off like it's no big deal, or to throw a party and be like, wow, that's amazing. Let's play with that and have a great time with it. It's such a mind fuck because you're like, wait, I've been afraid of this my whole life. I've hid this for, you know, decades in some cases. And this person just was like, yeah, and what? That's that's the scariest thing you're bringing to the table today, right? And it really can it really is a wake up call, but is so powerful to go through that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible to witness and to be a part of and all of the above.
Yeah. And it sounds like what you're saying back, like bringing it back to the beginning of this question of like, because it's very natural for you. It's very natural to be able to hold that space for people and then to, you know, navigate it with them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I've been doing my whole life without thought. And now I am doing it with intention.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only difference.
Yeah.
And you get paid for it, which is
I get paid for it.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm building my business, my empire, my my again, like I mentioned, I don't want to like hold people for an extended period of time. There's no reason to do so. And if they want to continue to work with me for an extended period of time, that's fine. But I still want them to be building those relationships outside of me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Trying to work yourself out of a job with these people. I think that's, you know, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an absolute delight. I'm excited to, you've agreed to stick around for some bonus questions. So we'll be there in a moment. But before we do, is there anything we haven't touched on or asked about that you wanted to share with the world today?
Not much. I feel like I shared a pretty decent amount, and I know that I'm going to be coming back on in a moment or a week, depending on when this lands, right? To talk with both of my partners in the same space, which I'm really looking forward to. But if you want to learn more about me, is this the time that I say so?
Yes.
Do it.
Yes.
And links to everything you're about to say will be in the show notes. So listeners, you can find it there.
Wonderful. Yeah. So you can find the Kink Collective at www.kinkcollective.net, as well as on Instagram at kink-collective. And then you can find me on Instagram at mistress.natalieny.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Natalie. And yeah, we'll, like you said, we're going to be right back with your bonus questions. And then in a few minutes, we're recording with you and Kat and Joshua, and that will be out next week. And just thank you again for being here and for sharing everything with us today.
Yeah, thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Thank you.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Natalie, for coming on and sharing your story. It was a delight to talk with you. So thank you so much.
And thank you for sticking around for the bonus questions. That's just your reminder, listeners, that you can go check out Natalie's bonus segment if you're a premium subscriber. And if you're not, it takes you about 3.5 minutes or less to join the premium subscription for just $4 a month over on the homepage of our website. And you can get more conversations with Natalie and all of our previous guests. Well, at least all of our previous guests from this year.
From 2026.
So you've got a lot of bonus content to go check out. So please do it.
We also want to remind you that you can find links to all of Natalie's work and the Kink Collective over under the podcast tab of our website. And before we let you go, we have a couple of upcoming event dates that we wanted to let you know about. The first one is tonight. That's Wednesday, August 19th, the day this episode came out, is our next community workshop. It's called Transforming the Shame Triangle with Jessica Fern. And if you missed it, you can still join the community and listen to the recording, so don't worry about that. We also have 2 other events coming up.
Whoa. To join that workshop,
Yes.
you might want to head over to our website and click on the community tab. And then once you're in the community, we'll get you in a jiffy, and you can watch you can join us for the workshop tonight.
Yes, thank you, Finn.
All right, carry on.
The other two events we have coming up are in-person speed friending in Oakland, California, August 27th, and our virtual speed friending Friday, October 2nd. Again, all of these dates are listed over on the events tab of our website, so you can find out more information and sign up there.
And next week, we'll be back at you with another podcast interview. Next week, we're talking to not just Natalie, not just Joshua, and not just Kat,
but all three of them
together on one podcast episode. It's actually a really great conversation. We can't wait till next week to share it with you. So come back next week. We'll see you tonight at the workshop, and then we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.